Okay, we're back at Lauren's project here. We're putting the dados now into the legs so that they can have the shelves on those, and we'll cut the shelves length momentarily. But this is what we looked at last week, and we've decided on this, where we have a 4-inch gap, a 5-inch gap, a 4-inch gap, and then whatever's left over will be the very bottom there. So I've set this thing up the way that we've been doing it in class. I have the board down below that I'm able to clamp onto and keep the thing flat. One thing I wanted to point out is, if you notice the tenon up here, all my measurements are coming from the tenon down. I still am going to cut the length of these legs down a little bit, so I don't want to make any references or any measurements from those areas there, because that's going to be gone. So this is a section here that is finished, so I work from my finished section down. And that's something that you have to do with woodworking. Whatever you have accomplished, you go from there and use edges that you know are staying to measure from. I also marked which side was the inside of the legs. I also marked which fronts were the front side of the legs. So when we look at this, we see that we have that little, the tenon sits back from the edge here, and it also sits back from the edge here, so that we have a left and a right leg on this. I came down for my for the first dado 4 and 5/16. So 5/16 is what the shoulder is on each of these. You have the tenon and the 5/16 shoulders on each side of the tenon there. So this right here, this is 5/16. This is 3/4. This is 5/16. Inch and 3/8 all together. Anyhow, so when I did this, I took my eyes here and I looked at the edge. I want to see that it was all flat. And one thing I noticed right here was that there's a little bit of a gap down here below, and it wants to be pushed down. And why is it going to matter? It's going to matter because the depth of cut. I either have to really push a lot of weight onto the router to get that to sit flat there, or I can just take a clamp, because you can see my router is not going to be messing with this area here. So I'm just going to take a clamp like this, and I'm going to clamp that to that board. And then if we look at that, we see that we're nice and tight now again. Okay? I'm going to make these cuts, and you've seen all this done before, so I'm not going to make you watch the cuts actually take place. But I'm going to be going across, and I'm stopping 1 inch in from the ends here. Okay? 1 inch, so we'll stop right here. One thing I wanted to say also is that, nobody in classes has said this to me, but I totally agree with it. If you've seen those glasses that like have the nose attached to them and then like the mustache underneath, this looks exactly these new glasses I got. It looks exactly like I got this big fake nose and this mustache, you know. And for a moment I was like really embarrassed of that fact. And then you know what? I decided to embrace it. Okay, so that's like my identity, is that glasses with the nose and the mustache. It's me. Okay, and I'm okay with that. So, anyhow, we're going to come down, and we're going to do this in the same depth that the other one was. So the depth we came down before was 3/4 of an inch. This thing is still set to that. I'll bring it over the edge here so you can see where that goes to. That comes down to right there. And if I mark that with a pencil where that cutter goes to, that's what our final depth of cut is going to be. Right here. Oh, you guys can't see it. This line right here is our depth of cut. Okay? So if I measure that, our depth of cut is 3/4 of an inch exactly. Okay? So we're still set from our last one. 3/4 of an inch is a fine length for our tenon. So I'm going to go ahead and make these cuts. I am going to do that without the camera.